Okay folks, here we are back again. Well, what I've decided to do was to separate this board into 3 columns, like that. First of all, in this column, we're looking at the facts. These are the indisputable facts. Now, why are they facts? They're facts because we can measure it. Okay? Whether you're a flat earther, a heliocentrist, or a garbage collector, or a unicorn. It doesn't matter what you are. You can measure these things. Okay? They're indisputable facts. Now, the point is, what do we do about these facts? What do we say about these facts? So, this column here is what flat earth say. And this column here is what the standard heliocentric model says. Okay, so let's examine this. Well, let's have a look at the facts up here. As we know, it produces ionizing radiation. This isn't a guess. This is a fact. Now, the model that describes why we get ionizing radiation is the model that I described in the last video about how the sun works. Well, you can dispute that, but you can't dispute this fact that the ionizing radiation is produced. What do the flat earth people say about that? Well, other than calling it a hologram or a projection, which doesn't explain any of that radiation, they've got no explanation for it. Not only do they have no explanation for that, there's no explanation for how we are protected from this radiation. None at all. So they describe a sun, whether it's an object, or whether it's a hologram, or whether it's a projection that seems to go around a flat surface, close by, and yet there's no protection whatsoever from this. Okay. Now, bearing in mind, I did give you the figures on the amount of joules. So it isn't some small trivial amount. And again, that's a fact. Here it is. 3.8 by 10 to the 26 joules per second. That's no trivial amount. You've got to think about that in terms of something that's small and close. First of all, something that's small and close that produces that kind of energy. That's one thing. And secondly, where does all this energy go? Because you can go outside and you certainly don't get fried. You've got to ask yourself why. Okay. What do the heliocentrists say? Well, if it's UV, certain types of UV, the ionizing radiation, most of it's collected or stopped by the ozone layer, which thankfully is starting to close up and has closed up even more since we're all staying home. Then there's the atmosphere. So yes, the atmosphere is there also for flat earth people, but it doesn't explain this amount of energy. It's explained on the heliocentric model with distance, because it's always in an inverse square relationship. So the further away it is, the less of it there is. Okay, in an inverse square relationship. So that explains that. The heliocentric model has an explanation for that and tells us how we get protected. And by the way, the other thing about it is we have a sphere. And the sphere has a magnetic field. So this magnetic field protects us from this ionizing radiation. That's not explained on the flat earth at all. Okay. Let's have a look at this one, this part, energy. Again, 3.8 by 10 to the 26 joules. That's no trivial amount of energy. The corona, millions of degrees Kelvin. So only 5.8 by 10 to the 3, so 5,800 Kelvin in the surface of it. But then further out we discover that the corona is millions of degrees. Now, this isn't something we're dreaming up. This is a fact. It belongs in this column. It's a fact. It can be measured. Okay, so why are we not being fried? Not only fried, in that energy here is tons of light. Unbearable amounts of light. And it's only because of distance that this light is now small enough for us to actually bear it. Why are we not blinded? Why is all the water not vapor? Because of the heat that you're going to get from that corona. Even if you could survive the heat, the 5,800 Kelvin from something that's close. What are we saying about it? What's the heliocentric model saying about it? Well, it says the most important thing is the distance. It's a long way away. And with the inverse square law, by the time it reaches us, it's bearable. In fact, still, we suffer. We have droughts. We have extreme heats. All of those sort of things still happen to us. But it's not enough to stop life from happening on Earth. But if the sun was close, like just a few thousand miles, with this much energy, then nothing would be surviving here. And this doesn't even take into account that silly nonsense about a dome. Imagine having all of that under a dome. Think about that. Okay. Well, what do we say again? Like I said, distance, the inverse square relationship, the tilt of the Earth. All of those things help us. Okay? So, we exist because those favourable conditions were there. Life exists because of the favourable conditions. Okay. Let's look at this column. Planet transiting the Sun, like Venus. This is a fact. We didn't make that up. You can actually see Venus transit the Sun. No change to the angular size of the Sun as it goes down, as it sets, or when it rises, or any time during the day. Have a look at that video that Wolfie did just recently with a filter. All day, no change to the size of the Sun. That's a fact. You can measure it. You can actually get an instrument and look at it and measure it. No change to the angular speed of the Sun. The Sun doesn't go 3,000 kilometers per hour over the top of my city in Australia. Although if the flat Earth model or the flat Earth idea had anything to do with it, it would have to. Because it would have to progressively go faster and faster as it goes further and further away from the North Pole. Well, I know that the charlatans amongst you say, well, we don't have a model, so that's not relevant. Well, it kind of is relevant, because if in one breath you say it's flat, then the implication is that if the Sun is going around a flat surface, then the further away it goes from its central position, the faster it must go. And if that's the case, by the time it gets to the latitude of Australia, of southern Australia anyway, it would be travelling around 72,000 miles per hour. which would make it about 72,000 miles, which would make it about 3,000 miles per hour. That means it would cross my city in approximately 10 minutes. Well, I can assure you the sun lasts longer than 10 minutes over here. Okay. What else we got? Let's look at the flat Earth view. What's the flat Earth people saying about Venus? Nothing. Not a thing. Not mentioned. Obviously. So, what is Venus then? Do you want to offer something now? Is it a black dot that moves across the face of the sun when it feels like it? How the hell do we predict when this black dot is going to happen to cross the face of the sun? How do the people who have this model predict that black dot for you? Why can't you predict that black dot? Why is there no change to the angular size of the sun? If you say the sun is going away from you, it's coming towards you from the east during the day, it should be very, very small as it comes towards you, then gets bigger and bigger, and as it goes away from you, it should get smaller and smaller. That is just perspective. Why doesn't that happen? It's the same size all day, right from the sunrise to sunset. That's a fact. It's a measurable fact. Okay, what do heliocentrics say about it? Well, the heliocentric model describes planetary motion. Venus is a planet. It transits the sun. It goes in between us and the sun. That's what is meant by that. There's also distance. Distance is another explanation. These things are far away. The sun is 93 million miles away, 150 million kilometers. The heliocentric model explains that perfectly. And that model, that distance, explains the amount of energy perfectly. That's why it's a model that we rely on. That's why it's a model that we use. Is it a truth? No. It's a model. It's a model we can rely on because all the bits fit and they work for us and we can use them. We can rely on them. There's nothing about this flat earth garbage that we can rely on. You put forward nothing. You offer nothing. To say that you don't have a model is useless. Absolutely useless. No value to mankind whatsoever. At least those people who do have this model can offer something to mankind with it. If all they can do is predict when things will happen, that is an offering to mankind. When they can predict a drought, when they can predict an earthquake, when they can predict an eclipse. All of these things are offerings to mankind. These things are offerings by the heliocentric model. We can even predict when a sun flare will happen. We can even talk about what we do when there is a sun flare. How does it affect the stuff that's on our planet? How does it affect our electronics? How does it affect satellites? All of these things are important offerings from the heliocentric model. Again, what has flat Earth got to offer? Nothing. Why on earth would you think we would take anything you say seriously when you have nothing? So you've got to ask, why am I doing this? Well, this is one of the gateways to conspiracy theories, very dangerous ones. And my aim is to educate. That's my job. Okay, I think that's enough. Next video, we'll have another look at a different model and look at that also from a flat earth perspective. Okay? All right. So, press the subscribe button if you want to see more, and the like or dislike button, whichever floats your boat. Okay? And press that little bell as well, and then you'll know when the next one's coming along. Hope you enjoyed this one. Catch you later.